Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday edition of This Week from Rockdale. Glad to have everyone joining me this evening, and I'm going to tell some people hello this evening and thank them for joining me. Megan Walker, thank you for joining this evening. William Campbell, Jim Kennedy, I, the taxpayer, George Kellethik, thank you for joining, George. Charlotte Gellert, Marie Withers, C.J. Lester. Nice to have you guys, and we've got the audience is building right now. Mary Boysworth, nice to have you here tonight. We've got the audience building. Hey guys, why don't we take this time right now and let's help build our audience. Laura Skelton, nice to have you. Let's help build this audience by liking and sharing the show. If we do that, then our audience will grow and more people will be able to tune in and they'll know what's going on in Rockdale County, and they'll know what kind of stuff that I'm talking about this evening. James Corbett, welcome to the show today, James. Like I just told everybody, like the show and share the show so that we can grow the audience and that people can have a good understanding of what we're going to talk about. I think it's going to be an interesting show tonight. Gloria English, thank you for joining and thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. So, I put on my little thing when I put about Danielle Muniz. Good evening. Danielle, it was great seeing you yesterday. Usually we only see you around Christmas time, but we got a little bit past mid-year visit from Danielle this year, and we'll see Danielle at Christmas time again. I'm assuming, won't we, Danielle? Let us know. You're going to be back in for Christmas. It's always nice to see you. But I entitled the show, Money Can't Buy You Love, another director gone. And, because if you guys remember, about 3 years ago or so, Lisa Lancaster, good evening, Lisa, nice to have you. This commission, these three clowns, they made this bold statement and this bold declaration. If we raise the pay of these directors and these employees, we won't have this turnover, and we'll be able to keep these guys. And we won't, and we'll just have this stable workforce. That's what they said. Good evening, Tina Hobbs and Clayton Orwood. Great to have you guys here tonight. But yeah, this Board of Commission about 3 years ago said, hey, we raise these salaries. We bring them into comparison of the private sector, not just the government sector, but we bring these directors in line with private. I mean, most of these directors now make over $100,000 a year. And if they don't make $100,000, it's 80s, 90s. I mean, but most of these directors in Rockdale County are six-figure salary individuals now with take-home cars and benefits. I mean, they've hit the big time in Rockdale County if you're a director in Rockdale County. So going to talk about this a little bit, guys. Now, in the last 30 months, and I'm gonna go up to 30 months because a lot of these are under 24 months that I'm going to talk about. But I'm going to go up to 30 because there may be one or so that do the 30-month duration. In the last 30 months, we have had 2 finance directors. In the last 30 months, we have had 3 stormwater directors. In the last 30 months, we have had 3 directors of RWR, Rockdale Water Resources. In the last 30 months, we have had 3 public relations directors. In the last 30 months, we will have 3 directors of planning and zoning. The current director has announced his resignation to become effective on September the 7th. So they will be in the market for another director. So that will be 3 directors of planning and zoning within 30 months. And the DOT director. We will have had 3 DOT directors in 30 months. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 directors, 5 directorships that we will have 3 directors and 1 that we will have 2 directors. So that is 6 director positions. 6 director positions that have had massive turnover in the last 30 months. And that, that's 2.5 years. And with that kind of turnover, It's ridiculous. Though CJ, very rarely do the deputy directors move up. That's another thing too, and that's just the bleeding of the directors. We have a lot of deputy directors that bite the dirt and go out of here too. So this is not just directors; it's deputy directors. And I will tell you guys something. What we have found from talking to individuals that work for the county and that have held these positions and and are underlings to these individuals, that the county is a very toxic atmosphere right now working for the county. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about all this turnover. You've got all these directors, you've got all this, these are, most of these directors are six-figure salary directors. You've got this big money being thrown at these folks, and they still don't stay and come. And of a couple of these guys on here have left and have got severance packages after leaving also. So, there's a lot of some of these folks, and one of the former finance director got a large settlement. One of the former public relations directors got a settlement from the county. So, you not only have people leaving because they're not satisfied with the work environment, and that's what this is. When you're offering these kind of salaries, take home cars and other, they travel all over the place, do these trips, all this plush treatment. When it looks like it's one thing from the outside, it is usually a toxic environment on the inside. A few years ago, they did this Envision Rockdale, if you guys remember, and they did this SWOT analysis. And on that SWOT analysis, with their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So I'm going to pull this up right now, and we're going to go over the weaknesses that were identified from this consulting firm that looked at Rockdale County and what they found. And we see they found scheduling challenges, uneven communication, inward department focus. They need to update the ordinances, inability to gain citizen buy-in on projects, department silos, and I'm going to explain this department silo and inward department focus because those go hand in hand. Poor communication. Okay. Inward department focus is, these departments are focused inwardly and they don't see the big picture. The department silo even goes deeper to that as to where they don't understand the workings of the other departments. This is like planning and zoning. Planning and zoning would not be communicating with RWR and Rockdale Water and Sewer to know what the capacities are, what the future plans are, what we can do now, what we will be able to do, how far out in the future can we expect any growth. When you've got planning and zoning that doesn't coordinate with your water and sewer department, then you have really bad planning of what the county is going to build and how they're going to build it. Because you have the city and the county awarding, planning all these townhomes and apartments and such, sucking up the resources, the water and sewer resources. When they talk about wanting to grow business, well, those businesses that may come here are going to be left out in the cold because they're not going to be able to hook up to water and sewer because the capacity isn't there. I mean, and that's what we're looking at, guys. We're looking at, money can't buy you love. Money can't buy you loyalty when you have a toxic work environment. And that's what we have in Rockdale County. You have a toxic work environment. So, I mean, I'm going to also show you what the threats were in this analysis. And I'm going to pull this up right now. So they considered the threats: small tax base. I don't think that's a threat. Don't you actually think that's reality? That's the reality of what the county has to deal with. They have to deal with a small tax base. Citizens concerned about rising costs. That's not a threat. That's a reality. Citizens need to be concerned about rising costs. Then they refer to as negative residents. Now, I am one of the individuals who they refer to as a negative resident. I don't think of myself as a negative resident. I think of myself as a realistic resident. That I look at this from a business standpoint. I look at this from what we can do and how we could actually plan things better in the future if we coordinated our efforts and knew what the left and right hand was doing. Outdated infrastructure. We have outdated infrastructure, limited sewer capacity. Now, this limited sewer capacity is a big thing that hangs over this county when it comes to business growth in this county. When I talked to you guys Wednesday and I talked about small land mass and we can't grow land. So we have to really take advantage of the land that we do have and maximize what we want to do with it. Now, do we want to take what minimal land mass we have and dedicate it to townhomes and apartments? Or would it be better suited for job creation? Hey, that's something that the residents need to be involved in and they need to talk about. I think when you see citizens come to these meetings and when you hear the citizens of Rockdale County talking right now, they are not very interested in townhomes and apartment development. They would much rather see a development of business in this county rather than that. So we say growth versus no growth. Now, I don't think that's a threat. I mean, the growth versus no growth, and in competition, we're talking about Newton County. Now we're talking about Morgan County with Rivian going in there. Lack of public support. Why is there a lack of public support? A lack of public support can go back from up here, guys, where we got the uneven communication. Now I'm going to go over here and show you where they say their strengths are. Their strengths are actually contradictory to their weaknesses and their threats. So they say they have strength as communication, but here they say they have uneven communication, and then they say that they're inwardly communicating. Follow up on key items, team focus, collaborative, team dedication to goals, innovative staff, experienced leaders. All that, I think they made up their strengths because their weaknesses and their threats are realities. They don't communicate well. That's very apparent from the misinformation that we get from the Board of Commission, and that's why we don't have. We go down here, lack of support because the citizens are concerned, and citizens aren't negative. They don't trust the Board of Commission, and because we've got this inability to gain citizen buy-in. I don't think it's inability to gain buy-in as much as it is the inability to gain public support because of the misinformation that this Board of Commission continually spreads to the citizens and taxpayers of this county. So this is ridiculous, guys. We're just totally out of control when we look at all of the, and I want to go over this again because I think you can't say it enough to re-emphasize the turnover that we've had just in department heads. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's not just been department heads. We have had deputy directors and other staff. It is difficult for them to keep staffing in this county because it is a negative work environment. Any of us who've worked in corporate America, and one of the things that we learn and that they teach us is about keeping a positive and upbeat work environment. Because if your work environment goes down the tubes, no matter what you pay, you cannot keep stable individuals in those positions. So again, in the last 30 months, 2 finance directors, 3 stormwater directors, 3 Rockdale Water Resources directors, 3 public relations directors, 3 planning and zoning directors, counting the one we will be hiring after the current one leaves September the 7th, and 3 directors of the Department of Transport, Rockdale DOT. This is when you look and you see you have problems in the county, you can't have that kind of turnover at the top of any organization and expect there to be stability in that organization. We have to remember the 3 elected officials have very limited knowledge in any of those fields. They have very limited knowledge in any of that. To be honest with you, I don't think any of them were actually very successful in the careers that they had prior to entering elected office. I don't think they had stellar, successful careers. I mean, I know that's probably mean, not popular to say, but it's reality. I mean, just do a little bit of Doreen Williams probably had the most successful, but no impact. You know, she don't want to get teachers riled at me here, but she was an educator, an English teacher. So did she really impact society? And then us getting to know her over the last 8 years, we really got to take them poor students that were under her, you know, God help them. You know, that's what I got to say. So, you know, and the chairman has a checkered career path when we look at his career through his lifetime, in trouble in everything he's ever done. We look at Sherry Washington. She never practiced law in a place she didn't get disbarred. I mean, that's just reality, guys. I mean, you lose your license here, lose your license in Texas, lose your license in the District of Columbia. So in their professions that they had chosen, even the chairman lost his post certification as a police officer and is not eligible to be a police officer, his chosen profession. So guys, I mean, that's not anything that I'm making up. If they've got an don't go riling up the rumors. Okay, I hear you, Alex. So you know, if you know, do your own checking on this, guys. I mean, look at it. You can see these individuals are not qualified to hold the positions they have. They didn't do very good in the private sector in the positions they had before they became elected officials. And you know, and then, like I said again, in the last 30 months, 2 finance directors, 3 stormwater directors, 3 directors of Rockdale Water Resources, 3 public relations directors, 3 directors of planning and zoning, including the one that we're going to be hiring, and 3 directors of Rockdale Department of Transportation. And then you've got these 3 individuals who are guiding the ship, and they have very limited job skills. So, you know, what are we to expect when we see the mismanagement that we see from Rockdale County government? And like I told you, we've got communication with employees that are in there embedded now that will just tell you it's a terrible place to work, that there's feuding among the directors and department heads. Nobody gets along, and it's a toxic work environment. So what do? You know, what do the citizens, what recourse do you have? You know, you've got elections coming up. You don't have to always keep electing the same people on these, and then that's what we need to do. I also wanted to bring up something else about a couple of these individuals tonight. I wanted to bring up the fact that the chairman, his property taxes, William Campbell just brought something, 2 fire chiefs. Now, the fire chief situation, before I go on to this, let me go to the fire chief situation. This is even a more interesting situation. So we had a fire chief in Dan Morgan. So Dan Morgan, they remove his fire chief. They replace him with another individual, but then they create a director level for Dan as the head of EMS. Because prior to that, EMS and the fire chief were one thing. So they hire the new fire chief, and they create a directorship for Dan Morgan over EMS. Then they spend $3.7 million on a building and furnishings for this new kingdom. So, and we've got a couple other directors, I think, Bill and informed me. We've got the new director of animal control, and I believe there's another one that we did with Parks and Rec when we did some separating there. So we did add a couple of additional directors also, but we have a hard time keeping them. So, but now I'm going to move on a little bit to, like I said, the property assessments of two of our commissioners. So in 2020, our property, and I don't have the number, I went and looked back for the numbers and didn't have them. Alex may have them, or somebody, y'all can throw them up here. But they were, let's just say they were A in 2020. Well, in 21, they got reduced, and they stayed to that reduced amount this year in 22. And not only did Commissioner Williams' property reduce, but we also know that there were renovations that were done to her property. And even during the renovation process, when you renovate a home, property values are supposed to go up. So hers went down even during a renovation. So I got a little bit of investigating. I want to know, well, she's got this disability exemption for her husband, the veterans exemption. I wanted to say, well, could an increase in property value impact that exemption? I found out it could. So the state of Georgia right now gives you a $50,000 exemption, a flat exemption for the disability, but there are extenuating circumstances that can grow that exemption to $93,356. Now, anything over that exemption, either over the 50 or over the 93, which is tops, anything over what you are exempt for that military disability is taxable. So don't just say, if she was exempt and maybe she's having these renovations, then these renovations could possibly have raised values and put you back into paying taxes. Just saying, guys. That's what we need to look at. If you or I do a renovation on our house, those property values are going to go up. But one of our commissioners does renovations on a property and they go down. Just got to ask. And then we also have to remember that under our current system, the assessor works for the Board of Commission. So those three commissioners are the employer of the assessor. That's how the system is now, is that the assessor works for the board. So interesting that the person that assesses property values has assessed the value of two of the people that he works for lower and not higher. Lynn Barrow, I do not know if she took out permits for those renovations. I think somebody might ask the city of Conyers. That's what I think we might need to do. Ask the city of Conyers. Did she take it out, or did she just do them? Who knows? What would make you think that they would actually do permits? Why would they start now obeying the law and doing the right thing? Why would that happen now? It would be amazing to me that they would do such a thing. What do you do? Oz's assessment, Lisa Lancaster asked, what about Oz's assessment? His assessment went down. Cheryl Garcia. Let's put Cheryl, and I knew Cheryl asked this because I had actually seen this open records request. I asked this is Cheryl Garcia. I asked the tax assessor why Doreen Williams' property value went down after renovations in 19 and why Oz Nesbitt's property value stayed the same for the last 3 years, but he hasn't responded. I was told by a little bird that there were some ORRs that were sent to the tax assessor's office, and the tax assessor's office was nervous about those ORRs. I got a feeling that it could be those ORRs. I got a feeling that those could be the ORRs that might be making somebody nervous. And I'm just going to tell you, just from speculative, it would appear to me that maybe a couple of individuals applied to the Board of Assessors to reduce their property values. And once you do that, you get locked in for that year and 2 more years. So for someone to have the exact same property assessment for 2 years in a row, it's most likely that that individual had applied, challenged their assessment and won an assessment reduction. And when you do that, it goes down for a couple of years. I think somebody in the chat here may have done that, and they won an assessment. Or I know someone who was in the chat has watched before. I don't think they're on here tonight, but they have, and they told me that they did that, and they won their appeal, and their property taxes are locked in for 2 additional years, so they didn't have to worry. And then one individual told me that they had them locked in, then they sold the property, and they didn't have to. They sold the property this year, and we're going to sell the property this year, and we're not going to have to deal with the new assessed values. They weren't going to get hit with that. So, I find it interesting, guys. I mean, then also wanted to mention something else. And then I talked to so I wanted to let you know something. I know some people that asked for an ORR. They asked for what, as far as what the assessments were going to be, what the millage rate and all this for the upcoming tax season. And they asked for this information before the millage rate tax increase hearings. And the information they got back, and this was before the hearings, that the county was going to be charging 18.69%. And this was before we saw the adjusted millage rate proposal by the finance director. It was actually during the time that the 20.69% rate had been advertised in the Citizen and on the county website. So, so just to let you know, looked like the fix was in all along, because when they got their ORR back, it showed at 18.69% millage rate forecast being assessed to the property values, and this was well before the first 2 hearings. So so I think it comes back to some of what we felt was going on, that they put this 20 point something thing out there, never intending to do that, intending to pretend to back it off. But what they didn't expect, I don't think they expected 350 to 400 people marching in on them, protesting about taxes. I don't think that they expected the number of people that spoke to them harshly about them taxing them. I don't think they expected that. I don't think they expected people challenging their misinformation campaign. I mean, we've challenged it in the past and, did some correction and say this is what it should be or whatever. But I think they are strongly being challenged right now on their misinformation campaign, because that's all it has been since this group of individuals, the Clown Posse, have had been control of Rockdale County. It has been a continuous campaign of misinformation, misleading information, and just total right out lies that the citizens of Rockdale County have been subject to for years now. And this is just not acceptable. Not acceptable behavior for the citizens of Rockdale County to endure. I believe that the citizens of Rockdale County have had enough. I believe that that you will follow through on your threats, because these members were threatened by many citizens that they weren't going to vote for them, make sure they didn't stay in those seats, that when election time came, they could vote them out. So that's the first time that citizens actually, those words were echoed by many people. There had been a few people that had insinuated such things, but this was the first time that you had this large of a group of taxpayers and voters to actually go forward and challenge this BOC in this manner. Um, so that'll be interesting. Somebody asked if there was an update on there's no update on the forensic audit status at this point. So, I mean, as things develop with that, we will let people know. And Clayton Norwick says it was great seeing so many people. Oh, I'm gonna put this up. It was great seeing so many people speak out at the BOC meetings that aren't the frequent flyers who regularly speak out. Stunning and amazing. Clayton, I agree 100%. It was amazing to see the outpouring of the taxpayers of Rockdale County and of the voters. And it was not the usual crowd or usual individuals. And you had people who hadn't spoken for several years came back and let their voice be heard. Josie Dean hadn't spoken in several years. I myself had not spoken in over a year. So, there were several people who hadn't spoke in a while that actually went to the microphone. You had people who had never spoke before that went and spoke elegantly, and they spoke truthfully. So I think it was a fantastic 2-week time period for Rockdale County, but I think also it was something to grow on. I think there's going to be growth beyond that 2 weeks. I think that people are interested in what's going on and what things will happen and such. I think that moving forward, we'll have more town halls, because Mary Boysworth just said, too bad we didn't have meetings before our primary in May. Might have made a difference in some outcomes, and it could have. But I think we know now that people are interested in this, and that we can have these meetings, and people will come out to them. And now we've got different groups and organizations that have joined forces to actually to work for the good of the taxpayers of Rockdale County. And as these groups emerge, and as they unite, and as they work together, then we will see that growing voice here in Rockdale County, where people will ignite a fire, and they will say enough is enough, and that's going to be a great thing. Laura Skelton says we need town halls frequently, and I do know that Voices for Rockdale and the Rockdale voter both intend to engage in town halls moving forward. So just to let you know, you've got those two nonpartisan organizations, the Voices for Rockdale and the Rockdale voter. They will, I think, jointly be doing some things, and then separately be having some meetings. But, we do have those organizations that are fighting for taxpayers and voters here in Rockdale County. And it's a great thing. And I was going to just give you guys an update on the host petition. If you all remember, a few years ago, we passed about House Bill 1102, which became the revised Homestead Exemption Act of 2020 in Rockdale County. So that petition is totally legal now. It has to be a hard copy, so you've got to sign it in person. here in the next, I think week after next, we're going to have an organizational meeting between the Rockdale voter and the Voices for Rockdale on how we're going to organize and get this petition out out for signatures for the citizens. And we'll be canvassing neighborhoods. We'll be setting up in stationary locations, advertising that, letting people know that they can come by and sign the petition. So let you know we are going to do that. The petition requires 4,495 signatures. So that's right at 5,000 signatures. So our goal is to collect between 52 and 5,300, turn that petition into the Board of Elections, and then next year in 23, we'll get that on the ballot. And we will then pass that piece of legislation. And then instead of the 75%, we got a 5% increase this year for the host exemption. You will get 100% of the monies that are collected will go toward a host exemption. So that's the goal for that, and that will bring some much needed tax relief to the citizens of Rockdale County. And remember, that is not legislation that was supported, endorsed, or in any way wished by your Board of Commission. In fact, that's a piece of legislation that I spearheaded, and I got the Rockdale Voter Group to sign on board with it. But that is a piece of legislation that I spearheaded with a couple of local legislators, and it was some hard work. We found a loophole in the Georgia Constitution that allows us to do this, and it's the way, it's the kind of things that we as citizens are able to impact our own lives and change things. We just have to look at ways outside the box to do it. I'm not going to stay on much longer. I'm going to announce something that I'm going to do Wednesday. Wednesday's show is going to be a little different. We are going to have a guest on Wednesday's show. We are going to have Tyler Harper, and he is running for Agriculture Commissioner in Georgia. Very important position, whether you think it is or not, because agriculture is a very big business and big part of Georgia's economy. So we want to, and that position is being vacated by Gary Black, who unsuccessfully ran a primary challenge for the United States Senate. So that will be a vacant seat, and Tyler Harper will be coming on the show. He will be the Republican nominee in that race. And like I said, anybody wants to come on the show, give me a call. I'll schedule you to come on the show. No party affiliation. I mean, anybody is welcome to come on this week from Rockdale that's running for public office, because I believe the citizens need to know these candidates. They need to know who they are. And to be honest with you, a lot of you guys probably do not know what the Agriculture Commissioner does. But after Wednesday's show, if you watch this show Wednesday, you will have a good idea of what the Agriculture Commissioner does, because I am going to grill Mr. Harper on what that Agriculture Commissioner does. Currently, Tyler Harper is a state senator. He has a lot to do with water resources and stuff in the state right now. And just to let you know, this week from Rockdale is going to be hopefully in the near future having George Kelichek on the show, because we want George to come on here and talk about the fate of water in Rockdale County, and that's what we would want. Clayton, the host at 80 should be automatic. I think it should be 100, because originally, when it was originally voted on, that's what they sold it to the taxpayers as. And then in the fine print of the legislation was that the county could siphon off money, and they slowly started to siphoning off money. I think it should be the 100. But after we pass this, get this this piece of legislation on the ballot, after we get these signatures, then it will be law. I mean, once we get the signatures, it's on the ballot, then the county has to 100% of the money goes to that. So, I mean, you know, we can just look at this as something that will happen. We will get the signatures. It's going to be on the ballot. But I look forward to Tyler Harper Wednesday coming on this show and educating us all about that thing. So I appreciate everything that everyone, Catherine Lynn, I do want to, let's go ahead and put this up here. Talk about the OZ here for a minute. Replying to Cheryl Garcia. Cheryl, Alls bought a new construction for $415,000 in December of 2019. I believe yet somehow his brand new house was assessed at something around $370. Meanwhile, many in my neighborhood saw a 71% increase in value this year. Catherine Lynn, I think those numbers just tell a story all on its own. They tell a story all on its own. If the assessor works for you, you might get a sweetheart assessment deal. You might get a sweetheart assessment deal. So that's what I see it as. But like I said again, Tyler Harper will be here Wednesday night. I appreciate each and every one of you for joining me tonight. And next Sunday, we'll go right back at it, guys. We'll go right back at attacking this Board of Commission. We might even throw an insult or so here at the Board of Education in the city of Conyers just to make sure that they don't go unscathed. While I'm at it, both of them are incompetent and have not done a good job. Why not just throw one in tonight? I like doing that. So, you know, why not? So, guys, I appreciate you. I will see you this Wednesday with our special guest, Tyler Harper. Thanks and good night.